New report. The Gaza Israeli crisis is now the worst since 1967. A new scathing report by aid groups blames Israeli embargo for food shortages. Jerusalem. Israel's blockade of the Gaza Strip has created the worst humanitarian crisis since its occupation began in 1967, the Human Rights Coalition has said. Food shortages, crumbling health services, and a water and sewage system close to collapse are all part of the daily misery facing at least 1.5 million Palestinians in Hamas-controlled Gaza. A scathing report by some British relief groups has said, as we speak, sewage is literally pouring into the streets, said Geoffrey Dennis, head of CARE, C-A-R-E International, one of the 8 non-governmental organizations behind the report. Over the past 3 weeks, we've only been able to send in food and medicine, and the aid dependency is rising. Israel has imposed harsh restrictions on the flow of people and goods and virtually frozen economic activity. 80% rely on food aid. The report painted a picture of a place held hostage by the embargo, which it said has worsened poverty, crippled education services, and made at least 1.1 million people, 80% of the population, dependent on food aid. The 8 groups, said that the hospitals are suffering from power cuts of up to 12 hours a day, while almost 18% of patients seeking emergency treatment outside Gaza last year were refused permits to leave. Overall employment is nearly 40%. The report follows strident international condemnation of Israel after it struck hard against Palestinian militants in Gaza, killing at least 120 in the past week, including many civilians, after Palestinian militants escalated their daily rocket fire at Israel. Palestinian rockets have killed at least 13 people, wounded dozens more, traumatized thousands, and caused millions of dollars in damage. Israel tightened the blockade in January, limiting supplies of fuel and other goods in what it has described as a response to cross-border rocket fire by militants. When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, you shall know that the time is close or near. Israel's defense ministry rejected the report, blaming the militant Hamas rulers of Gaza for the hardships. Utterly indefensible. But Amnesty International-UK Director Kate Allen said Israel must protect its citizens, but as the occupying power in Gaza, it also has a legal duty to ensure that Gazans have access to food, clean water, electricity, and medical care. This is a humanitarian crisis. She added, punishing the entire Gazan population by denying them these basic human rights is utterly indefensible. The current situation is man-made and must be reversed. Israel removed all 21 settlements and withdrew its forces from Gaza in 2005. Israel maintains that ended its occupation. But rights groups say that since Israel still controls Gaza's land, sea, and air access, it is still the occupying power. After Hamas militants seized control of Gaza, Israel closed its crossings, allowing only small shipments of vital goods into Gaza. A senior UN official has warned that the dire conditions outlined in the report would be worsened by any escalation of Israeli military action in response to indiscriminate rocket attacks from Gaza. It would be very devastating. Yes, this is a humanitarian crisis. Very likely has a possibility of becoming even worse. May God help us all.